So the biggest decision if you're getting the brand new Steam Deck OLED is, should you get the 512GB or the top end 1TB version? Surely the logic is to go big and just get the very best 1TB model though, right? Not necessarily. So let's analyse and break down what 3 of our favourite tech YouTube legends recommend about this that helped me decide, plus what was ultimately the deciding factor for me in the model that I chose. So let's dive straight in, and there are 5 key differences between the 512GB Steam Deck OLED and the top end 1TB version. 2 of these aren't important, which are the exclusive startup movie and an exclusive virtual keyboard theme. 1 is quite important that the included carry case has a removable liner. And 2 are incredibly important factors, in the top end having a premium anti-glare etched glass screen, and the other factor of course being almost double the SSD storage at 1TB. So let's start with the legend Russ at Retro Game Corps, who to me is the gold standard of what myself and other upcoming tech YouTubers strive to reach. And the idea of a removable inner case does sound really great, but he raised some fascinating concerns that could definitely go against it. Check this out.
Now, a couple other things worth noting about the case. Number 1, it still has that little divot in the bottom, and it comes with a little mesh bag like it did before. The other thing that's really interesting in this updated case is that it's actually 2 cases in one. If you grab it by the zipper and then pull it apart from the rest of the case, it'll actually come undone. And so essentially you can remove that outer shell. There's not a lot going on once you take it apart, although you can't see how much space that divot will take on the bottom. Now, this new liner case is pretty cool. It's super thin and also will still protect your Steam Deck. The way that Valve describes it is that it's going to give you just enough protection, for example, if you want to throw it into a backpack. Now, one thing I did notice right off the bat with the inner liner is that all the Velcro that was holding it in place with the outer case is completely exposed out here on the front. And it has a soft sort of furry texture to it. I think it's fine, but all the same, it's a little bit weird with a hard shell case to have something so soft on the outside. And I also couldn't help but think that maybe this would attract lint if you were like throwing it into your backpack. You know, a bunch of like tortilla chip crumbs, all those kind of things might get inside of the Velcro here. So I guess what I'm saying is I do like the fact that we have a smaller case here. It's one of my main complaints about the larger one. But I am curious to see whether or not this Velcro is going to cause a problem down the line.
And when it comes to whether that premium anti-glare etched glass screen is a worthwhile addition or in fact unnecessary, Russ was pretty clear about which one he'd pick, which played a huge factor in my decision making too.
There are many people who prefer an etched glass display because of those anti-reflective properties, but there's also a lot of people who prefer to have a more glossy display, especially on an OLED panel, because that will make the contrast and the color values really pop. And so in the end, you're probably wondering, am I keeping both of these, getting rid of one? What am I going to be doing with these 2 Steam Decks? And I have to say that the jury is not totally out on this. I'm going to give it about a week before I make my decision. But I will tell you right now, I am leaning very heavily towards keeping the 512GB model. When it comes down to it, when I'm just playing on a Steam Deck, I'm usually doing it at night. And as a result, I don't have a bunch of lights around. And so I think that's going to make the 512GB glossy model really pop. And for me, that's a quality that I really appreciate in a display.
There's been a ton of hotly debated discussion online about whether that anti-glare etched glass really does take away some of that vibrancy from all the benefits of that gorgeous OLED screen. And another of our tech YouTuber heroes, Taki Udon, addresses this in his very thorough comparison vid. Check this out.
If you've read any discussion on this new etched glass OLED model, then you'll know that there's a lot of talk about how this etched glass will ruin the vibrancy of the colors that we're getting because it's getting in the way. If we look at this area right here on both screens, I can say that that part looks better on the glossy screen than it does on the etched glass screen.
So while the vibrancy of the screen may be more apparent in the 512GB model, the biggest negative of the glossy screen, of course, are those reflections, which Taki addressed too.
The problem with the glossy screen is when you do focus on those reflections, they're very clear and they can be distracting, whereas on the etched glass version, that doesn't happen. Or at least it doesn't happen to that extent.
By the way, if this video is helpful, then be sure to hit that like button and also subscribe if you're new to the channel, and enable notifications so you don't miss out on any of the latest Steam Deck OLED news, tutorials, and other content just like this. You guys are awesome. And finally, let's turn to probably our favorite YouTuber tech legend of them all, Dave2D, and his take and recommendation on this crucial aspect of this anti-glare screen issue is ultimately what solidified it for me in my decision making. Check this out.
So the top tier configurations, like this unit here, have this anti-glare etched glass finish to them. And the purpose of it is to kind of cut down some of the reflections. So this unit here does not have that etched glass coating. So if you're in a really bright environment or a brightly lit room, sometimes those reflections can be a little bit harsh, right? But here, they're diffused a bit. The problem is though, because it's an OLED display, I feel like you lose some of the OLED properties. Like the popping colors and the really black blacks are lost because of that matte finish on that etched glass. So as a demonstration, this is, it's like a screen protector. This is gonna be a very crude demonstration, but hopefully it gets the point across. If you give it a second for this screen to kind of fuse on, or the protector to fuse on, look at the difference in the color. Like look at the black part of the menu there, right? On the left side is that etched glass. It's almost lost its true black nature because of the OLED, right? But on the right, with that smooth screen protector on it, it's still quite dark. So I'm just thinking, if you're gonna purchase one of these things, unless you really care about brightly lit environments and you want to cut down those reflections badly, I would opt for the regular screen without that anti-glare property. The other thing is that if you get a screen protector, you put it on, it fixes it. But I'm just saying, with the anti-glare, you lose a lot of that OLED goodness.
So weighing all this up, there were 4 factors that helped me make my decision. Number 1 was Rust highlighting the uncertainty of the benefits in having that inner case, with the Velcro potentially attracting unwanted lint. Number 2 is I already have a 512GB SD card that I can't use with my ROG Ally, so the extra storage wasn't an issue for me personally. At 3 was from personal experience, in that I had the top-end anti-glare reflective model on my old LCD Steam Deck that I sold to CEX here in the UK and talked about in the last vid, and it always did have a nagging feeling that even on that LCD screen, the screen was dulled even further with that anti-glare display. And 4 was yes, as we've seen here, all these YouTubers do seem to overwhelmingly suggest that the standard 512GB may be the way to go, which is why I went for this model too. Taki did offer reassuring advice for anyone who has or indeed wants the top end 1TB model though. Check this out.
Buy the model that you have enough money to afford. If you can only afford the cheaper OLED version, just buy it. You can always get an etched glass screen protector to put over it in the future. On the flip side of this, you can also use a glossy screen protector on an etched glass screen to make it look like a standard panel. I did this with my original 512 deck, and I think it looks great. After spending so much time with an etched glass screen on my original deck, I like how this panel looks with this protector installed.
I'd love to hear whether you're planning to get the standard 512GB or the top end 1TB Steam Deck model and why. And also, if you have either of these, then how are you finding it? Especially how are you finding that inner case and anti-reflective display on the top end model? Let us know in the comments. And as a thank you for watching right to the end of the video, here's an awesome quote. You don't need a new year or a new day to start over. You only need a new mindset. Right at the start of a brand new year of 2024, let's have a positive attitude that this is going to be our best year yet, regardless of past hurts and mistakes. So stay encouraged today, guys. And all the links to the clips in this vid are in the description and are highly recommended viewing. And check this video out if you want to know the 11 reasons why I just got my Steam Deck OLED. I appreciate every single one of you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.